Ascended Souls weekly Wednesdays live with our food, medicine, and lifestyle health series, focusing on episode 7 Foods to Assist Our Spiritual Purging and Healing. Wow, the energies of these times are crazy and they're all good. And so today, my oracle card reading for us is when I asked the question before we just went online like 5 minutes ago. My question was, what are we healing this week? And the two cards I drew, one is, okay, trying to get the visuals right here for those folks who are joining us with the video. Clear your karma. One. Second one was fear. There we go. Fear. It's just a black card and a door. And so interesting that these cards come up. There's a lot of fears to face, maybe even fears within ourselves about like moving forward on our spiritual journey. A lot of karma is coming up to be healed and to let go, to be surrendered. It's interesting times. And karma can all hit us differently. It can just be something that we experience in a relationship. It could be a trigger. It could be something happening in our bodies. It all happens to us for the purposes of helping us. So it's been a really intense week, I gotta say. Mai, how about you? What are the collectives feeling this week in terms of energies?
I think your card is really on spot. It's really about karma this week. And karma, like what you just mentioned, it could be in both ways. Karma could be experienced feeling good, and it could be experienced feeling shitty. I think most of us feel the shit when it comes to karma. But it could also be it could also be seen like it's a good hurt, Like we're in this week and we're seeing all I call it the happenings. Like we're seeing our reality. We're seeing all these hidden anger, this inner anger within ourselves. So Amy, I'm seeing that, and everyone's healing differently karmically. I'm healing time with my karma this week. I'm like managing my time. Like I'm giving too much of my time for this. I need to stop. We need to heal this. Why? Why we stuck here? So like again, karma can be seen positive, and I see it in a positive way with karma. So whenever we're stuck with this karma, whatever you're stuck this week, just take a step and just pause and just self-reflect like what needs to be healed here, what do I need to break. Some are really painful, and then this karma could be, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be hit really hard. It's going to be still continuing from last week, which is self-worth, worthiness, and then it'll go into your blueprint, and everyone has a different soul outline what you're working on. And for me, I'm just giving examples. Mine's about self-worth and time and valuing myself more, and not giving my time, not wasting my time on things. And this not and it could be indicating like people. Like if you're wasting your time on people, is like obviously you need to heal here, and why you're giving more and you're not receiving back. So the collectives again, we're still continuing from last week, which is solar plexus energy power again. So what are collectives feeling this week? I'm pretty sure changes. I'm pretty sure this week you're feeling what I call your inner anger or your hidden anger is finally out, isn't it? Feeling good.
Mhm.
Best, right? We're feeling all good about anger, right? I'm feeling my own inner anger. I'm like, oh yeah. Why are you angry? Because I put myself there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
not like it's inner, and it's not this little anger. It's like this anger that is inside you, and we keep denying this anger. Like, no, that's not true. I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's true. And this week, it's like you're really seeing it. You're like, oh my god, why am I doing this to myself? So we're seeing our inner anger, and like again, right now, we're not making changes to our anger. We're just seeing it. We're just recognizing it. So it's really normal to have all these new happenings, a lot of shift coming, a lot of changes, thoughts are coming through, your mentality is coming through, your emotions are exploding. That's, just normal at this week. It's not like it gets physical explosion, but it's explosive to your thoughts like, oh yeah, we got some shit right here that needs to be cleansed. My We need something catchy here.
Yeah.
And then some is, again, and right now it's about management. This week is about us managing, like all that shit is happening. How are you going to manage it? So that's kind of like the, thoughts that we should come, how we're going to manage this. How do we clear this? How do we adjust this? How do we, and it's about surrendering and letting go during this time. So my favorite word right now is facing reality and healing those broken wounds.
Yeah, well, I hear you. I'm all on board with you when it comes to that anger. Man, I was feeling some anger this week. Whoa. It was an intense few days. And, I'm at work and I'm just like, I got to go for a walk outside right now. I got to escape the office. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so we are continuing our food and medicine, lifestyle, and health series, talking about food and our spiritual journey. Last week, we were talking about healing with food and the stomach and solar plexus. And we talked about power and strength and how our stomach ailments, although physical, can also have an effect in the spiritual realms. And today, we're talking about purging and healing. And I know Maya and I have been talking about spiritual praying on a few of our episodes in the past, but this time it's about food, and so we're just going to talk a little about what that is. So Maya, kick us off here. Start us off.
What is spiritual purging? So, spiritual purging is when our body is going through a transitional phase of change. So, we also call it shifting. Some of us have the, very deep purging, and there's the super light, but usually purging is when we're just shredding stuff out our system, letting go. And during this transitional cycle of change, our body experiences a set of responses to our thoughts, our emotions. So you're going to feel all this change coming, but through the purging, it's like releasing. And this change affects our physical body, our spirituality, our emotion, and it's our body's way of processing things. So spiritual purging can also last as many lifetimes, but that's not the spiritual purging we're talking about. So that's kind of like, if it's spiritual. So when we're talking about lifetime, that's something huge, super huge on you. But today we're talking about the spiritual purging of cycles, like our behaviors, in relationship to health. So when it comes to our health, right, and our wellness with spiritual purging, it can last several weeks. Usually, I just say 9 weeks is really good. It's a really common one. So when we're talking about health, not, I just say about 9 weeks, 2 3 months before shifting. If something super big, like you're doing a purging, super big, it could be up to 3 years. So that means that's something huge. But today's case, we're talking more like health and wellness and food. So we're talking more spiritual purging today, more about like our health, right? Kind of like spiritual detoxing, foods that are not healthy for us. So that's when we're talking about that type of spiritual purging, making a change in our lifestyle. So that could take a couple of weeks before it starts purging. In today's spiritual purging term, we were talking about purging term. So we usually talk about that it's a cycle when our body's going through a change of cycle, we must eat also. We must also eat healing and therapeutic foods to help us during this healing process. So today, when we're talking about spiritual purging in relationship, we're talking more of a relationship to food. So when we are purging, you also want to eat healthy foods while you're purging, and we're going to be talking about lots of stuff in relationship to purging. So, an example of a change of a cycle of purging is defined something like this. This is just an example. Our body's healing from, a spiritual illness. I get spiritual illnesses. A lot of people do. Spiritual illness doesn't mean you're physically sick. It means like you're spiritually sick. And one spiritual illness that's really common is depression. Depression is one, or anxiety that's happening, for several weeks, or like this anxiety. Usually you don't have anxiety, but then you have this period anxiety. So that's what we call spiritual illness or unwanted energies affecting our life force. So those are like really, really dark energy, like all of a sudden, like it would be like kind of like spiritual attachments or entities, or another one is ending an old way of doing things. So we also call that spiritual detoxing. What about you, Jill?
Well, for me, it's kind of like I've done a lot of like stomach cleanses and liver cleanses in the body, but so spiritual purging is like a detox, but for the energy. And the intensities can be totally mild or totally significant. There's a whole range of spectrums. You can just have mild aches and pains, or you can be knocked out on your butt with a like a really bad cold or some a body problem. It can take days or weeks, or possibly, like Maya said, like years or longer, and it can affect us multiple ways. Like we get, like I mentioned, an example, the physical way where we have some illness, but it can also affect us mentally. It can affect us emotionally, and in all of our bodies. All of like we're kind of these complex energetic beings, and it could affect us on all levels because it's all related. It's all connected. So it's a change of direction. It's a choice. These kind of purges, it's a change of direction. It's a choice to let the old kind of ways and actions and things we used to do in the past, let it go. And so we can make those shifts and we can move in different directions that are more in alignment with kind of a softer energy or a loving energy or a different lifestyle change or whatever it is. But it all starts out with that intent to change and that desire to change. And so that's usually how it starts. Some signs that your spiritual or your body, your physical body, may be experiencing a spiritual purge. Well, spiritual purge affects, like I said earlier, the mind, body, and spirit. But it can show up in your life in different ways. Like it show up like your old food habits change. All of a sudden, the foods you loved before, you don't like them anymore, or you feel lighter, you feel softer. Your diet changes, or your interests change. All of a sudden, like you start running. And your whole life you've hated it. So there could be something, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, okay, this is different for me, but I'm going to go with it. I think I feel like doing this today. Okay.
All right. So question number 3: what is the spiritual purging process in relation to a soul ascension? So spiritual purging is actually the first process of releasing. So it's like, I call it like, a spiritual purging. It's like the early stages. So if you're kind of going through a process of spiritual purging, through your first spiritual awakening, and you're like, I haven't ascended yet. Yes, you are on your first process. You're at the beginning of the cycle. You're learning the first process with your spiritual guides, which is mostly releasing and letting go and surrendering. The spiritual purging is basically what I would describe as breaking the habit, breaking the cycle. It's got to start somewhere if you're going to go through the ascension cycle. So spiritual purging must be the first in the process before the soul resets its programming. And I explain it to everyone about spiritual purging and ascension is that, um, you know, it's if you've done healing work, you can't you have to break the cycle. You have to remove what you don't want around you. You have to remove the energy that you don't want around you. And then you start clearing your fields. And when you start clearing your fields, you feel this balance, right? And then you kind of reset. So it's like a computer. When your computer, you're setting your computer, and then that's the same thing with our body. It works the same way. So our soul has to reset all its programming. So that's what spiritual purging is: removing and releasing all the stuff we don't want, all the stupid shit that we don't want, around us. We don't want in our body. We don't want to be this person anymore. This is not us. This voice is not us. So that's spiritual purging. And that process is because we're resetting ourselves. So when we start resetting ourselves, we start, before we, in the process of resetting ourselves, we start deleting old programmings. We start healing stuff like broken stuff, wounds, and we end what I call is the old system, and resetting what you want in your body. So once everything is resetted in your body, then you start adding, I call it, then you start adding extra features to your desires in your body.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, for me, it's one of those necessary evils. You can't get to the good stuff until you go through the bad stuff. It can be quite unpleasant. It can really mess with you because if you're attached to the old ways that you used to have, it could be very painful and hard to let go, but it's totally necessary to get to a lighter vibration, a more elevated way of like seeing the world. So in order to make that progress along the ascension path, all the old spiritual toxic ways must go. So an example of mine I talked about earlier was anger. That has to go. You can't be all love and light and still be carrying anger around with you. So anyway, that's
I
just one
will
example.
chill. To bring it like, when you start doing the spiritual purging and you realize, like Jill's talking about anger, like bye ugly me anger, okay, bye. So with anger, it's because you're deleting that, like, we don't need to be angry about this. So that's kind of like an example of spiritual purging in the process.
Mhm. Exactly. So, what are some signs that maybe the physical body is responding to or rejecting foods in a spiritual purge? So, we're getting back to that food now. So, okay, because it's a shift in process, it's a shift and it's a transition. Your body can both respond well or reject certain things. And so, an example on the rejection would be body rejects junk and fake food, junk food, fake food. You eat less volume of food than before, and you eat different foods than how you used to be in the past. All of a sudden, your body becomes sensitive to certain foods, but it's not related to an allergy. And you're like, oh, my stomach feels sick when I eat this. Oh, okay. But you're not physically sick to the stomach. It's the feeling of being sick, and your body's like, no, we don't like this food anymore. It's got to go. You could also like have some physical things like headaches, nausea. You can and also go to the extreme like throwing up, vomiting, diarrhea. If your body says no, we're not doing this anymore. Out, vacate now. You could also have what we call an energetic allergic response. So it's not a physical allergic response, it's like an energetic. So you feel like heat or tingling or burning or these feelings and sensations. You're like, what? And you're just like, oh, hold on. I just ate this. Oh, I wonder if that's related. Oh, I wonder. And you're like, oh, okay, this could be another one of those signs because the physical signs of allergic responses like hives are obvious, but what about those, those, it's good to think about the energetic ones too, that may be a little more subtle. The physical body denies food or pushes it away. It's like hungry, you're hungry, but you're like, I'm not eating. I'm not eating until I get the right food. I'm not eating this crap. I'm going to be hungry all day until I get the right food that I want. Your cravings could change. So, for example, like, you might have like crave like chips or chocolate in the past. Now you're craving like fruits and you're like, whoa, that's different. um, and your old habits and your old kind of ways, your belief systems and your habits and your whole philosophy around food may change. So like, for example, like if you had a hungry stomach in the past, if you, as soon as you got the growlies, you're just like, I need to find food now. I need to find food now. Because the old ways, it was like a sign of like insecurity or a wound, or it was created panic or stress about maybe some food scarcity, some starvation things in the past lives. But during this shift and transition on the spiritual purge path, you're like, huh, my stomach is growling and I'm not panic and freaking out here. This is actually good. This is progress. So your old ways would shift. And so those are just a couple things that you might, signs that your physical body is responding or rejecting food in the spiritual purge.
All right. Question number 5. How do you know if certain foods counteract or work against your spiritual purge? So this is when you're like, you're eating foods in your body. it's just kind of like it's there. You think you're eating it for a good reason, but then it counteracts in your body during your spiritual purge. You throw up because this is about your body's resisting to the food you have eaten. Other signs is your body works against you. I know that one sucks. Your body responds emotionally to foods, or you might have like you're getting triggered really when you eat those certain foods. You go into a lot of like, if you're eating foods and you think it's supposed to help you, but your body's saying go fuck yourself. So it's when you go into the mindset or emotions that you keep saying, go fuck yourself, and you kind of go into the fuck you bitch mode, is what I call it. The fuck you bitch mode, and you're eating foods, and because your body is responding, because our body is responding to food all the time, emotionally, mentally, psychically, like in many ways, and energetically. So if your body is going into fuck you bitch mode, then that means that it's not probably good for you. Other ones is your mentality enters into another space. So it's when your mind starts telling your mind like fuck you, I hate you. Your mind gets into that space. um Other ones is you get drained energetically and feel like an empty shell, like, and it could be like you're eating all these foods, but then you still feel energetically drained, or you're feeling like you ate so much food, but you still feel like it's your stomach is empty. Other signs is also cold sensations or just really cold chills down your body. Other ones is triggered by everything or by certain subjects. And another one that's really big is depression, anxiety, and paranoia. So just having those depressions, those depressive thoughts, or even any form of anxiety and paranoia that just keeps coming to you. So you know so if you're having any of those symptoms above that I just listed, then that means that the foods counteract or work against you during your spiritual purge. So those are signs to look for.
Yeah. So, what are the food do's and don'ts when you're kind of going through this transition, the spiritual transition, and you're coming on the road to recovery, and you're okay. You feel like you're coming out the other side, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. It's getting better. So we would suggest not eating any kind of acidic foods. Like a great one is like a vinegar, that kind of thing. You want to reduce your fire, the foods that create energetic fire in your body. So a couple examples would be like garlic, onions, or ginger. They create a lot of fire. You might want to eat something that brings stability to the root chakra as well. Something more grounding, something earthy, like carrots, for example. That's an earthy food. You want to avoid spicy and possibly even reduce your volumes and just maybe eat a bunch of smaller meals instead of the previous, like traditional, like bigger meals 3 times a day, a bunch of little small foods. But you also want to avoid eating maybe too many earth elemental foods. These foods rebuild cellular frequency. So maybe like potatoes, to really manage how many potatoes you eat. They provide healing, but it's only a temporary process. You also want to make sure you're eating a lot of liquids to hydrate and to flush out the toxins. And a really good one for hydration is herbal teas. Just really, focus like chamomile, something soft and mild. Lavender tea is very soothing and calming when the body's in transition. Drink water, but don't overdrink, don't too much. Just kind of manage, have it more with something soft and tea, and sodas are probably a no too. Any kind of like sugary pops.
Yeah, especially with foods, you just have to be like, especially foods, do's and don'ts, what Jill was talking about. And when we're going into recovery, we don't want to have too much of this and too much of that. It's very important for us to have this balance, eating with elements, a balance in our body. So when Jill was talking about avoid eating too much earth element foods, earth, like a lot of earth elements, is all about building our body. So just think about like muscles, that's an earth element. So but when we're recovering, we don't want too much earth elements, just like basic, I'm not saying to limit yourself, but just enough for your body, because then it just changes the frequency. So because basically with like earth element, and where when we're eating earth elementary, so I'm talking more like an earthy energy or kind of like a wood energy. They provide healing, but usually it's just a temporary thing. It just holds temporary in our body, but then it's not stable. So I just wanted to clarify that. So number 7, during our recovery process of spiritual food purging, what can we expect to feel emotionally, mentally, and physically? So during a recovery process, when we're done with all that recovery, either your spiritual food purging, and you're doing this lifestyle, you're healing, ending old cycles with all these behaviors, or even healing yourself, because there's many types of spiritual purging. So when we're doing spiritual purging, we have to also eat the right foods to assist us through the healing. So that's why we made this course about spiritual purging and food, to know what to do and what to not to do. What can you also expect, emotionally, mentally, physically, after all that stuff, and you're healed, and during that recovery, you're done recovering, you should feel less heaviness. You shouldn't feel as heavy. You're going to feel much lighter. Some of us feel like, super light, but some of us are like, I went to this spiritual purging, and I still don't feel like. You probably feel a little lighter. It just means that you need to do more. You're not done yet, sweetie. You got a little more to go. Don't feel disappointed. It just means that you just need to dig deeper what needs to be released. Keep going. Just because you do, like I say, just because you do one spiritual purge, one thing, and you're like, I'm done forever. No, you're not. You're not done. So, and other things, what you can expect after that recovery process from purging, and you don't feel pushed to do things. You feel emotionally and mentally balanced. You're able to think for yourself and not the needs of other people. So you're not dependent on other people. You're able to laugh and just feel really good about yourself, feeling confident about yourself. And you know what you want, and like you have things that planned out. You probably will, after you do your spiritual purge, you probably have all those things planned out with your list, like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good and confident about myself. Oh, I'm doing this and this and this. This is what we got to do. So usually after a spiritual purging, and you're eating the right foods, and you're healed, and you're doing the recovery, it's really common to plan things. Like you'll have this whole list, like, we need to get rid of this and that. This is no longer this. I'm not this person anymore. Why are we acting like that? We're healing this shit. And you're going to start planning things like, this is what I want. This is, so that's just really, really common. You don't energetically feel pulled in many directions. You have a stability. Some of us is not like pulled. Before, you probably were pulled like in like 10 different directions. But with spiritual purging, and eating the right foods to assist your healing and your recovery process, you're probably not being pulled in 10 directions, but you might be pulled like 3 or 4 directions. Or you might even feel not pulled at all. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm not following you. I know myself. I know my voice. Other signs is you're able to control situations. Like you know how to escalate the situation of your own self. I'm not talking about the situation. You know how to control the situation, escalate yourself from the situation, meaning like if you get triggered about something, and you're not going to go psycho on everybody. Able to control the situation, you're super triggered, like that bite your tongue, take one step away, or like I need to walk out. Okay. So that's why I mean control the situation, because you're not super triggered anymore. You know that, okay, you know about your behaviors. Other one is my last one is love to eat, and you get excited to eat. new foods are coming in. You might even get connected to a new food when you're doing this spiritual purging, and you find that this food is healing. You might even get it might even be on your top favorite food list, like I must have this, and you just like to eat it, and you get so excited to eat about it. So
Hmm. Yeah, so you might be wondering, well, this is great. These are all great tips, but how do I go about choosing foods during this recovery process from a spiritual purge in this transition phase of my spiritual journey? Well, my first advice is get out of your head and allow your body to talk to you, to tell you what it needs. And you might say, well, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of ways. You firstly listen to your cravings. Don't like look at your fridge and say, well, I got cauliflower right here, I better eat that tonight. Well, no. You maybe eat a piece of cauliflower, but allow your body to say, what do I feel like? And one way you can do this is through the sway test. And essentially your body becomes like a pendulum, and you ask your body, like, show me the direction for yes. And you kind of say, like, my name is Jill, and the body will sway one way. You're like, oh, okay, so that's the answer for yes. And then you say, well, I like to drive motorcycles. And for me, that's the no answer. So my body shows me the no answer. And so then you can use this whole sway test kind of idea at the grocery store or in your kitchen. You can kind of let your body kind of tell you what it needs that way. You don't have to be, clairaudient or clairvoyant. You can just use the wisdom of the body. Another thing you can do is like allow the body to direct you in the grocery store. And so all you got to do there is get out of your head and distract yourself, distract your mind, and allow the body to walk around the store and stop in front of like the food that it needs. So I do that all the time, and I'm like, okay, I guess today we're eating eggplant. That's cool. So those are a couple of different tips that you can how to choose your foods during your recovery process. How about you? What are your tips?
my tips is if it feels good, so if it feels like a deep connection to your healing, in your healing process, because like again, when we're going through a spiritual purge, we're gonna select our foods to assist us in healing. So anywhere, when you're going to your grocery store, and if you have this deep connection to that, it's healing you, then that's the food that you get. Another one, if it benefits you energetically and physically, then that food is good for your healing process. One thing I would just say, like, when it comes to choosing food, just because you read something on the internet, or you read something on the internet, like, oh, this food it's good for this and this for the body, it may say that, or it may be recommended for you, but then energetically, if it doesn't feel good, then it's probably not going to assist your recovery process.
Good tips.
All right. Question number 9. So, what are different ways to work with food during our recovery process? So, there are many ways to work with food. One is food prayers or rituals, which is, when we have our sacredness to food. So, you could, like, say a little prayer before you're eating, or saying a little prayer, or saying something like, I eat this food, please provide me healing from my heart. I'm eating this food, please nurture my heart. Or maybe it's a specific food, like for example, like, if you're eating some fruit like mango, can you help, mango just help provide healing for my body needs some type of healing, will you nourish and nurture me? Or it doesn't even have to be like that deep. It could just be like a food prayer, like, you know and it's kind of like, I'm healing my heart, and you're just eating food, not even getting attention with food, but just focusing energetically that healing your body. Other one is taking a bath with certain food energy. So this is kind of like, Let's just say, like, example is basil, right? You have some dry basil, and basil is really healing, and you have some dry basil at home, or even like even having tea, like tea bags, and just putting in taking a bath with it. So maybe certain food energies. I've done different ones. I do not recommend you turmeric. Just kidding.
Orange body.
Not that it's gonna. No, I'm not even worried about the orange thing. I do not recommend turmeric unless you want to spend your time using baking soda to clean your bathtub.
Oh, the cleaning part. Yeah, I can totally see that.
I used okay, so my story with taking a bath with certain food, I used to take a bath with turmeric, right? And there's a time where I was having a lot of energies, a lot of entities attaching me, and I was just cleaning my body with turmeric and a turmeric water bathtub. But the thing was like I had to clean it because it stained my bathtub. So if you're not a cleaner and you don't want to clean after taking a bath, I do not recommend turmeric or any herb that has this wonderful color to it. So,
That's awesome.
other ways to work with food during a recovery process: drinking herbs or tea infusions, or even making them, or just being creative with making your own tea infusions. Um, you can also use tea and herb infusions and start blessing them over the water. So just kind of like you could probably make like a tea, right? And instead of drinking it, you're kind of like, I don't feel like drinking this, or I had too much of this tea already in my system. You could just use the water and just put it on your face, or just kind of blessing yourself. Kind of like to say, for example, is your third eye, or maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe it's not food, or it could be just like a little, like let's just say it's like a little orange and water, and you super dilute it with water, and just like, you know what, I'm just putting this for my eye and just smelling it also, or you just using, or you can also just smell the food, which is like example one, orange or lemon. That's a common one. Or maybe you're not eating it, but you're smelling the peels. Peels could be therapeutic also. Other ways is putting food on altars, and we're not talking about like sacred food of eating, but just kind of like maybe like for example, it's like orange peels you put on your altar. Um, I put herbs on my altar, so that's still a form of food. Having herbs on your altar because you're working with the energy with that. So there's different ways to work with food also. You could also put foods as a face mask. One example is avocado. Using raw avocado, you're healing with avocado. You're eating avocado, but then let's just say that you need more than just eating it. You need to feel it, so you could probably make your own like face mask or start putting avocado over your skin. Another one is making herb oils and putting the desired, food or food medicine into lotions and start rubbing it on your skin. Maybe you have certain foods or certain foods that you want to make into like herbal oils, or even putting into lotions. And another one is using affirmations when eating foods or using food energy. So I use a lot of affirmations for myself when it comes to eating foods.
Awesome. Well, this we talked about food today. So what additional foods or tools, sorry, what additional tools can assist us with spiritual purging? So food is a great tool, but there's many more like exercise, yoga, light breath work to maintain stability and flow of the energy. You want to, when you're purging, you want to have really soft breath work. So you want to really just sink in and soften your energy field. And you would only want to use some of the more intense breath works for releasing heaviness. Meditation is really important, just to slow everything down, to allow yourself that time to soften and come into acceptance of kind of where you are, and just kind of appreciate the journey. Journal is a way to process and express what's happening to you. Or if you don't journal, you might want to do like a Facebook post or something where you've got the act of writing. You want to try to limit or stay away from toxic people who are, are like trigger you or have bad, bad vibes, because you're in a very delicate place and you just want to really honor kind of where you're at and the need for you to kind of release what your toxicity. You might want to support the body a little bit and do some sort of massage or energy releasing through like acupressure, acupoints, reflexology, for your feet or your hands, and lots and lots and lots of sleep. Your body has built in wisdom, it knows what to do. Honor when you need a nap, honor that, and make sure you just allow yourself to settle in and get those 8 hours sleep that you need.
Yeah, especially with spiritual purging, it's really important. I tell you, there are two things that are important when you're doing spiritual purging: sleep and eat.
Yeah. For me, it's also slowing down. It's just like, okay, we don't, the cleaning can wait. We need to chill out right now.
Well,
Yeah.
when you're doing a spiritual purge and when you're cleaning a lot, that's a sign that your body's cleaning, so the house is cleaning along with the body.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially with spiritual purge, when we're all going through a spiritual purge, there's the beginning process, which is, where we're cutting cords, we're clearing, we're doing this purge, and then there's the entire feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm purging, it's happening now, and then you get all this like feelings and sensations, all the thoughts come out, all the
Mhm.
mentality, the emotions, all the trigger points come out. But your body is just processing and processing and processing. So what do? You have to eat the right foods to nurture during that process. Because when we don't eat the right foods while we're processing, for example, I'm doing a spiritual purge and my heart is hurting and we're purging this pain of my heart, but I'm gonna drink soda and McDonald's because I feel probably not gonna help you, sweetie. You probably need something that's a little more like I mean, like it doesn't mean you can't eat those foods. It means yes, you could eat those foods, but you probably want something that's a little more balanced. You could still eat, the junk food and all that stuff, but you probably want to not eat as much than usual. So yeah, I'm like, since we're working on heart chakra, you probably want something like a little soup, add a little herbs into it, or something more, more balanced and stable for your heart chakra. But that's just kind of like saying that during our spiritual purging, we need food, the right foods to assist us. So then that can help bring a balance. And during that spiritual purge, it's really common. It's really common to be very emotional. So if during that spiritual purge and you're getting very emotional about it, I mean, don't like we mentioned, don't get spicy food. I mean, like that. I think that's just common sense. Like, if you're emotionally triggered while you're doing this spiritual purge and you're eating spicy, it's like it's so spicy. I'm crying. Yeah, spicy foods. You want to avoid acidic and spicy foods. I'm just saying that, like, that is just like, for me, I just say it's common sense. So how do you know when it's the right food for me and when I'm healing emotionally and processing everything of this? So how do I know when it's the right food? Well, like I said, it's all about touch it. If you're touching it and it feels good, that's what it's needed. Don't make something that it's not right for you. And I'm pretty sure this. I'm pretty sure you've done it before. Make a beautiful dish, and you thought this is, you're making it, and you're like, nope, not eating it.
Nope. Or you only have like a very small, wee little bit of portion because it's like it was previously your favorite dish, and now you look at it and you're like, ugh, no. But I'll have just like a little bit because I'm really like hungry. Just like a couple mouthfuls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say like, yeah, that's like a big sign for me. I'm making something and nope, not touching. I've done that before. Or you think like, make a tea, you're like, oh, I'm gonna drink it, of course, it's for me. Nope, drink probably one thing, and you're like, it's missing something, or you feel like something's missing something. So when I feel like it's missing something, I avoid it. Other signs is me just avoiding stuff. So when I'm avoiding those stuff, then that means that it's probably not for me.
Hmm.
What about you? How do you know if it's the right food for you, Jill?
My body, like I have a rush of joy come over top of me. Like um, when I was like, oh, what am I craving? What am I craving? And I just know I'm feeling something. I'm like, I can't quite identify it. I'm feeling this. No, it's not this. No, it's not that. And then when I see it in my fridge or I see it like on the counter, I'm like, yes, that's it. That's it. I feel like, woo, that's it. My body's like, yeah, baby, I'm eating that, you know? Yeah, that's the signs that I know because I feel that way about mangoes. And I didn't even realize well, maybe I did. Some level, I just felt an urge to buy a bag of mangoes last week. And I was like, yep, I need a mango. So I've been eating one like every couple of days. And it's been like, it just soothes the soul for me. So it's just like the food that you connect with emotionally. If you feel that joy, you feel that excitement, you feel happy to eat it, you're excited to eat it. And it just, when you eat it, it's like almost very sensual, like you really appreciate it. You have a lot of gratitude in it. And it's just like, I'm just trying to find the words. It's just like it fills you up emotionally. It just makes you so happy. That's how I know it's the right food for me.
Okay. So, so currently, I'm just gonna tell like a story about me. So, like, I have been like, sometimes I'll crave for wine, and there's nothing wrong with wine, but lately I've been eating grapes.
Right on.
So, like, every day I'd be like, so my kids are like, Mom, didn't you just eat this grape? Like, I buy a bag of shit. because I'll because I'll eat a lot of grapes because I'm like, so like every day, I think I've been doing it for 2 weeks. Every day I would buy like a bag of like five, like a bag of grapes, and it's like $5. I'm eating it. I'm like, I ate it all. Or my kids will eat it, and
Yeah.
but that's like that's what I've been working lately. So with spiritual purging, me, it's like I'm healing a lot of solar plexus. So again, I'm healing with worth and time and value, and one of the thing is like grapes is helping me heal through that process. So lately I've been just like buying grapes and I'm just eating these grapes, and then I saw my wine. I'm like, yeah, no, we're learning to let you go.
That's awesome. Today I was driving home and I'm like, oh, I'm craving some fruit. What am I craving? What am I craving? And so I pulled into the fresh fruit stand on the side of the road, and I was looking at blueberries. I was like, nope. I was looking at cherries. I was like, nope. And I kind of like tuned into my body. I was like, body, show me what you want. Show me what I want. I opened my eyes and I was looking right at the peaches. I'm like, sweet. That's exactly what I want. And they were so juicy. It was heaven. It was total heaven. It was so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, so back to our topic about spiritual purging. So spiritual purging is a process, like I mentioned at the beginning, that there's the releasing during our spiritual purging. I think that the most sensitive time is probably at the beginning, which is you're really emotional, releasing, you're being triggered. So at the beginning, you want to have the right foods to assist you at the beginning. So then it can help balance you, help stable your emotions at the same time, and also give you a therapeutic healing. And then there's the process where things are releasing, it's clearing, we're removing this cycle is ending, this cycle is happening, it's everything is clearing the winds. And then we go into what we call the recovery process. It's almost like an addict, okay? You are recovering. You are now, you admit to stuff. You're not in the denial. You are an acceptance of yourself right now in this spiritual purging. So then this is the recovery, and you're recovering. So sometimes your foods change. At the beginning, you might be releasing and you might be drawn to these foods, and then you're at the recovery stage and you're like, oh, I don't need those foods no more. I don't need that. No, that's not for me no more. Oh, and that's really common when we're doing a spiritual purge. Our foods will change, and you might find something else that's more softer, and because you know that you're in recovery. And then after the stage of recovery, when you're all healed and you're past the recovery, which is healing, sometimes you may be drawn to those foods, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just kind of like, it's kind of like a cycle, what I call a temporary cycle, where you're just, those foods are drawn to you during your spiritual purging, and then you're just like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about that. So to me, I just saying that's common, because when we're spiritual purging, we're in this cycle of healing, and we might be eating these certain types of foods, and then all of a sudden when we're healed, like, oh, I'm going back to my lasagna. Okay, that's I was like that today. Not with lasagna. I was like, because I like eating pasta, so I was like this. Oh, we're done with this fruit stage thing. Okay. Going back to my pasta bucket.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So if you're kind of like in this, like, for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, like, you're eating this food, you're just constantly eating it, and then after 8 weeks, and you're just kind of like, I don't care about that anymore. I'm going back to my regulars, and that just means that the body is healing. And sometimes, like, people, if you're kind of like wondering, like, how do I know I'm going through a spiritual purge? Sometimes you're actually doing it, but you don't recognize that you're actually doing it. So if you're not like super tuned in, you're not aware, you're probably like doing it already, which is like, for example, is like, life is so busy, you're doing your thing, and you're probably doing this spiritual purge, and it's for people who are not really into the spiritual purge. They're going through some type of purge, and you don't know why. You just feel it, but then you're going like, every day you're like, I'm buying oranges, I'm eating soup and oranges in 8 weeks. Like, this is enough. This is enough. I need, like, for example, I'm going back to my pasta, okay? So, and then that process, or the example would be like, another example is, every day, and you're not really attuned into your awareness, and just say like, you always eat out, and all of a sudden 8 weeks you're not eating out. You're like, I know, I'm staying home, eating home cooked meals. No, this is what I want. No, honey, we're not going out. And then after the 8 weeks, you're like, done. I'm done with this shit. We're going back to eat out. That means that you are done with your spiritual purge. And that's, like I say, sometimes you recognize it, and sometimes you don't even recognize it. And I notice, like, I know when I'm having my cycles of spiritual purge, sometimes you're aware that you're going through a spiritual purge, and sometimes you're not aware, just because like your world is so busy, you don't have time to tap into like every spiritual purge you're going through. But that's just kind of like an example.
Cool. Thanks, Maya, for wrapping that up. That was awesome. So Maya and I are going to be changing our live time for those joining us in person on our Facebook page. We will be changing it from Wednesdays to Sunday. And we also are now expanding the platform to Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So yeah, if you are trying to reach a wider audience, and yeah, so join us on one of those channels. If you miss one of the episodes, we're loading up all of our episodes in our series there now too.
Yeah, so me and Jill are currently doing live streaming. So we'll be, like, again, Jill said, we'll be moving to Sundays. We won't be back in 2 weeks on our live streams, but we will have some replays from old episodes for the next 2 weeks. Me and Jill are actually going to go and we're going to take a break, and just taking a break, just relaxing. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new live stream episodes. And again, we're expanding to Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We're also thinking about moving onto Instagram. So we will update you on our process. So me and Jill are very, very excited about this new process. Things are changing, things are happening. We've been working a lot of stuff. There's a lot of planning, so there's a lot of growth here. So join us if you want to hear our new episodes. Join us in 2 weeks. Other than that, enjoy our replays from old episodes. So everyone, have a good night and enjoy the Earth energies. I know the Earth energy this week is really heavy, and it's gonna slowly start moving in just because the moon is coming nearby in a couple of days and loves to swing us with its energies. So everyone have a wonderful week.
Yeah. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.